All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another weekly setup. So I'm going to have analyzed over 20 pairs using the fxalexg set and forget strategy, and let me show you what we have this week. Now, just if in case you didn't watch the longer version of this video, I explained certain fundamental news that is affecting market currently that you need to be aware of, right? I mean, I could ask you to go and watch that video, but let me just explain a few things. So, I mean, if you watched last week, right? If you're trading last week active, you notice that the unemployment data did not come out and CPI did not even happen last week, right? So that is due to economic shutdown by the US, and that's affected the market. So that is also maybe a good sign or a bad sign for this week, because all that news are very, very important and they have to be released. So if they are going to be released, they might all be released this week again, which means that this week might probably go crazy, right? So that's one thing you need to be aware of, because the Fed need all those data to be able to make some appropriate decision in the market, right? So all these USD pairs, they're just going to be crazy this week, right? So another thing is that from personal experience with this sell and forget strategy, I'm telling you right now, the ending of the year is usually not that good. Sell and forget strategy works very, very good during the middle of the year, preferably, right? So anything around that kind, March, April, May, especially June, July, right? Those markets are always very good with trading sell and forget. But at the ending of the year, the market, man, is always crazy. So what my plan is that from now till around January or February, I'll just be taking one trade per week, right? So I mean that is the usual, that is the regular, right? That is the regular. I'll just be taking one trade per week, right, to see how market plays out, right? So I'll still be trading during December, but I'll just be very careful during December. So these are the pairs I'll be paying attention for during this week. So my favorite pair this week is actually this GBP CHF, and I'll explain what it means. So I've covered this pair multiple times, but let us explain it again. So this right here, you can see on the weekly time frame, is GBP CHF, and this right here is a historical low, right? Historical low. Since anytime price comes to this price right here, 1.86422 1.06432, price has strongly reacted from that area multiple times, and there's no price data below to give us anything. There's nothing on that price, so which means price has never really crossed this area. Price has a week here, which means price has come to this area before, but it never really closed below this price right here, right? So price has never really closed below this price right here. So if I go over to the daily time frame, you can see it clearer. So the area of interest we're going to be using here is the daily area of interest. As you can see, from this area of interest, price has clearly reacted from this area once, 2, 3, and 4 times now, right? So even if the price action is actually showing bearish, it just makes sense that since price have never really crossed this area before, what are the chances it's going to cross it now, right? So it doesn't make any sense. It only makes sense for us to buy. So as you can see that this area is going to be a very, very strong area, because there's no other area below this area that's ever happened ever, right? So it only makes sense that this area is going to be a very, very strong area, right? So if I go over to the 4-hour time frame, you can see that the 4-hour time frame came back to this area bearish, had a shift of structure, had a break right here, and then a retest and an engulfing here on the 4-hour time frame, right? So it's very possible that price can continue buying from this area right now. So you can see that the 4-hour have actually shifted bullish, even if most of the time frame are actually bearish, right? From the EMA, you can also see that price is already shifting bullish, right? So if I'm going to be choosing one pair this week, I'm likely to choose this particular pair, just because the price action makes a lot more sense for me to buy. So I'll be waiting for a cleaner break and retest above this area right here on the 1-hour time frame, which is going to be the entry time frame for me to buy, right? So this is my first market this week. Another market I'm paying attention to is Euro AUD. So this market I still believe is going to be selling, right? So last week was actually bullish at that time, right? So but the daily time frame still looks very good to me. So I believe that this market is going to be selling from this strong area of interest right here. So if you check on the 4-hour time frame, you can see that price is basically all over the place. The cleanest price action is actually here on the daily. So until we see what we're looking for, we are going to be selling the market, but that is another pair I'm paying attention to this week. Another pair I'm also paying attention to this week is CAD JPY. So if I go over to the daily time frame, you can see that on the daily time frame we have this strong area of interest right here. So price was totally bullish, but it now shifted bearish this last week, right? So this last week price shifted bearish on CAD JPY, and we have a very strong area of interest. Anytime we are above, we are rejecting to the upside. Anytime we are below this area, we are rejecting to the downside. Now that we're currently below this area, we'll simply be waiting for price to get back to this area first, and then we'll look for reasons to sell from this area. So it actually makes sense for us to sell because price have reacted from that area before. But once price gets to this area, we'll now jump down to the lower time frames to see a price action that shows is selling momentum or bearish formation, head and shoulders, all those good stuff. Then we'll now look for reasons to sell and know where to put our stop loss and all those good stuff, right? So that is that for CAD JPY. Another pair we have is GPP, Euro GPP. So this one is actually just a minor trade, right? So what I mean by minor trade is that the area of interest that we're using on this particular pair is not a strong area of interest, which means it's not from the daily or it's not from the weekly time frame. It's from the 4-hour time frame, which is still valid, right? It's still valid on the 4-hour time frame. It's just that it's weaker compared to the daily and the weekly time frame. So simply what we are looking for, you can see that price has just broken the trend line. It's now currently under EMA, currently under area of interest, which has multiple rejections, right? And price has retraced back into this area. So it's still very possible that price can continue selling from this market. So on the 1-hour time frame, which is the entry time frame, what we'll simply be looking for right here is a retracement back into this area again, and then an engulfing for us to sell. Stop loss is going to be above these highs, right? So stop loss is going to be above these highs, and then we'll target new lows for a 1:2 risk to reward ratio on Euro GPP, right? Another pair I'll also be paying attention to this week is Euro NZD USD, right? So NZD USD is also the classic break and retest. So as soon as price starts to slow down and have an engulfing on the daily time frame, we'll be paying attention to this market, but we still need a lot more price action, right? So we still need price to get back to area of interest first, so before we actually pay attention in taking this market, right? So this price action still has a lot of more work to do before we actually pay attention to this market, right? GBP/NZD is the next pair. So GBP/NZD, this right here is just a high that have been respected by price. Now that we're currently above that high, I expect a reaction from that area. If you look on the daily time frame, if I come closer to around here right now, you can see that we have a doji which shows a rejection, right? If you read your candlestick trading bible, you understand what I'm talking about, right? So that is a rejection, which means that price is respecting that area right now. So it's still very possible that price can actually start pushing up from here, right? So on the 4-hour time frame, as you can see on the 4-hour time frame, price is bearish, right? Price is bearish. So for us to buy with this market, we still need some form of bullish momentum. So for price to turn bullish, he has to break above this high right here. So which means we'll still be waiting for a break and retest above this high for us to buy. As you can see, the EMA is going to come holding price as support for us to continue buying this market. That is the same price action we'll still be waiting for to see on the 1-hour time frame. So as you can see on the 1-hour time frame, it's technically bullish, but we need a cleaner break and retest above to confirm that this market is actually bullish for us to buy, right? And then the last pair for the week is Euro NZD. So Euro NZD, it just makes sense to sell in this market, but this right here is a counter trend trade, right? As you can see that all time frames are actually bullish, but you know, if you look at the daily time frame, you can see that daily time frame seems to be lacking that deeper pullback, right? So it seems that we are still going to have a much more deeper pullback to around here or something before we continue buying. But just pointing it out there, you can see that they are both NZD pairs. It only seems like one of the pairs is going to give us the opportunity to either buy or sell, right? So this one is telling us sell, this one is telling us buy. Anyone that gave us the opportunity will be interested in taking it this week. So that's pretty much the pairs I'll be willing to pay attention to this week, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Remember to subscribe to the channel, guys. It's absolutely free, and I'll see you guys in the next video.